What is up, everyone? It is the Alpha J of the Alpha J Show, and welcome to Character Clash, a series on my channel where I compare two characters, look for core traits, and see how I would write a character with a similar general concept. Bear in mind, if anything I say is negated because of a future episode, just note the date that this was posted. Before we begin, I want to shout out this fan art here from a great friend of mine, as well as these comments here. Like I said, big rush of comments. I have so many comments to put up here, so just keep them coming. So to begin this video, I want to say that this is a special character clash. I usually don't do this, but today I'm going to be creating two character clashes. One with the classic edition of these characters, and the other with the modern edition of those characters. So let's talk about Classic Patrick from Classic SpongeBob, Seasons 1 to 3, and Classic Cosmo from Classic Fairy Oddparents, Seasons 1 to 5. Now, some people may wonder, why am I splitting them up? Well, if you want a quick summary, because it's for a lot of reasons. Just know that after the first movie, a lot of things changed, from the staff to the art style to the general feel of the episodes, the general feel of the characters, and the same goes for Fairy Oddparents. The Fairy Oddparents had a long hiatus between two seasons, Seasons 5 and Season 6. And coming back to Season 6 with the Fairy Oddparents, you had stuff like Fairy Odd Baby, Fairy Odd Pet, the Big Fairy Share Scare. And those things are very, very different from classic Fairy Oddparents. So I think it would be beneficial to talk about the classic editions and now the modern editions. But we're going to start off with the classic editions right now. Now let's go season by season and try to get an overall depiction of Patrick's character in classic pre-movie SpongeBob. You have episodes like Help Wanted and Scaredy Pants in Season 1, where Patrick is seen being more chill and supportive. Episodes like that really show that Patrick isn't stupid, just not intellectual. He would be somewhere near average, maybe below average. In fact, episodes like Hooky, he shows that he does stupid things for fun. But not for the entertainment of hurting others, but for the entertainment of having fun with others. He doesn't look at the consequences, but he doesn't do things out of malice. He's more clumsy and foolish than outright stupid. Patrick shows tons of emotions on his sleeve, somewhat aggressively, about how he feels about SpongeBob, or just things in general, in episodes like Nature Pants, Home Sweet Pineapple, and Valentine's Day. We also have episodes like Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost, Hooky, Arg, SB129, and Opposite Day, where Patrick seems to be more of a character to bounce off of SpongeBob and his environment than in later seasons. This is similar to early episodes of Gumball, where Darwin is bouncing off of Gumball, and that's a big part of his character. In fact, with episodes like Hooky and Suds in particular, Patrick helps, but in a negative way. He's not just a sidekick, but in episodes like Naughty Nautical Neighbors and Suds, he does actually have a small bit of ego and I'm clearly right, quote-unquote, despite being misinformed. Now yes, this does hurt SpongeBob in episodes like Suds, but it was done in a much more comedic way. He was doing it because of what he heard about doctors. It's kind of like two childhood friends panicking about one of them getting a very nasty scar, and one of them saying something about how doctors operate and that the other should hide this scar from their parents, because they mean well in the short term, but they don't think in the long term when this scar gets really, really bad. So yes, I can see in these episodes from Season 1, Patrick means well. In Season 2, we get to see more of this friendship levels of conflicts, like with episodes like Big Pink Loser, Life of Crime, Survival of the Idiots, The Fry Cook Games, and Dumped. The theme I get from these episodes, at least from Patrick's perspective, is that when he fights with SpongeBob, it's much more on a mutual level. It comes across very innocent-like in nature, like how in Big Pink Loser, he decided to imitate SpongeBob, or like how in Life of Crime, they end their crime spree by telling on each other. It wouldn't be wrong of me to say that that's pretty much on the childish level. Simple lessons and stories seem to work well with pre-movie Patrick. However, in pre-movie SpongeBob, we also tend to see Patrick more as a citizen, as well as a main character. With episodes like Sandy, SpongeBob, and the Worm, Squirrel Jokes, I'm Your Biggest Fanatic, Pressure, and Band Geeks, he has moments like the memeable
"Is mayonnaise an instrument?"
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Horseradish is not an instrument either.
We also have in the episode Squirrel Jokes where he is seen next to a random fish citizen. Something I think I haven't really seen very common in SpongeBob, unless we're talking about Little Yellow Book, but obviously that's modern SpongeBob. I think it's important because in later seasons, he becomes more isolated, less of a citizen in the series. He even integrates well with the Bikini Bottom citizens in Christmas Who. However, we see shades of slight intelligence, with Patrick calling out SpongeBob on his procrastination in the cleverly named episode by picking up on social cues and helping out SpongeBob with his driving exam and however, he does play up the dumb comedy well, with episodes like Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 3, Shanghaied, and Sailor Mouth, as well as with episodes stated before, Band Geeks, and Pink Loser. The balance really does make his actions seem very complex and needed for a dumb character. It really does make his few, but memorable moments when he isn't playing up the dumb card even more memorable. I'm With Stupid is a very defining episode for Patrick because it shows how he perceives people who are not as smart as him, whether it's truly the case or playing pretend. For many people in the animation community, it's a truly love it or hate it episode, but it definitely defines a side of Patrick not seen often. Going into season 3, what remains the same? Well, that childhood innocence in adventures and rivalries is still a main theme in episodes like Club SpongeBob, Idiot Box, Snowball Effect, Doing Time, Wet Painters, Midlife Crustacean, New Student Starfish, and the camping episode. In episodes like the Idiot Box, Club SpongeBob, and the camping episode specifically, it seems as though as Patrick and SpongeBob have a willingness to let the cartoonish antics happen, and staying positive throughout it makes those episodes work. Patrick works well bouncing off of Squidward, a straight man, in this trio like in Snowball Effect, where his antics, plus fighting with SpongeBob in a fun and friendly and comedic way, pulled Squidward into having a fight with them. There's also episodes like Rockabye Bivalve, where he deals with responsibility in a carefree way. He's not really malicious, but he is careless. In fact, that perfectly compares with the Great Snail Race, because he doesn't seem to have a single worry in the world despite, well, if you've seen the episode, you know. We have more of Patrick blending in with the citizens, which is another great trait to have, like with episodes like SpongeBob House Party, Krusty Krab Training Video, Doing Time, Sponge Guard on Duty, and The Bully, in a way. However, it isn't all fights, as he does show in episodes like Pranks a Lot, Missing Identity, I Had an Accident, Chocolate with Nuts, Wet Painters, and No Weenies Allowed. He helps SpongeBob, whether it's helping him prank people, helping him find his name tag, helping him get out of the house, helping him sell chocolate, helping him paint a house, or helping him get into a club by beating himself up. He is still a very helpful person. From what it seems like in these episodes, Patrick is not brain dead. He does still carry the trait of being clumsy, careless, and short-sighted. He does mess up SpongeBob's plans in Wet Painters, but he also helps in the end with the giant bubble. He doesn't really help a lot with Rockabye Bivalve, but gets somewhat of his comeuppance in the end. He doesn't really help in the beginning of New Student Starfish, but he ends up helping in the end, putting his differences aside with SpongeBob. So this does show that Patrick has a morality, and more importantly, he has depth. So putting Patrick's character together, he seems very careless when it comes to his own actions, but caring when it comes to other people, especially his friends, and only slightly aggressive when he gets emotional. He appears to blend in well as a citizen of Bikini Bottom, and although he fights with SpongeBob, just like when he helps or goes on an adventure, there is this childhood innocence about him. In terms of his intelligence, yes, he's slower than his friends, but he has his moments still that make him seem smart. So Cosmo is a bit more different, because there isn't many episodes revolving around Cosmo heavily, except for a select few that I will go over. He's sort of there in many episodes, so this one will be slightly different. So Cosmo seems to be ultra optimistic in season 1. He seems very happy-go-lucky, and usually is on the same page as Wanda, like in episodes like The Big Problem, Power Mad, and Spaced Out, and pretty much any episode in season 1 now that I think about it. He does seem a lot slower than Wanda, yes, but he makes up for his missed shots by taking more shots. The way he helps out Timmy a lot in Power Mad by doing a lot of different things, or how in A Wish Too Far, he seems to have a sense of helping by being himself without knowing that there is a side of himself that is just too honest and not really helpful in this particular situation. He isn't really stupid per se, or maybe my standards of stupid have fallen. He's just a lot slower to the punch, and very rarely in season 1 did I find a joke that was put there explicitly for Cosmo to fail because he he's quote-unquote stupid and for comedy. He's had popular jokes in season 1 with the nickel gag and Spaced Out. He does have a defining episode in A Partnership where he does care about Wanda and he cares enough to throw her a surprise anniversary party. He gets mad and upset but doesn't realize his own error. He's revealed to be somewhat of a mama's boy in the approach he took, but he's willing to stand up to his mother in order to keep Wanda. In fact, he's self-aware, and he isn't the smartest, but he's also aware that Wanda does not care. We also have episodes like Dog's Day Afternoon, where he doesn't exactly help, but he doesn't exactly hurt anything either. He's used a lot for comedy, but at the same time, he shows not only his short-sighted thinking when he was a flea, but how much he couldn't be away from Wanda. He also continued to show his appreciation for Timmy and willingness to help, despite being slower than the people around him, in episodes like The Same Game. But sometimes he just adds in his 2 cents and nothing more, like in episodes like Dream Goat. In season 2, he seems to take more of a backseat in episodes like A Mile in My Shoes, That's Life, Twistery. He offers a lot of comedic, clever, and subtle one-liners instead of ruining the plot or being the reason why something becomes harder in the plot. However, he's super well known for episodes like CosmoCon and Superbike. Now with CosmoCon and Wanda's Day Off, we get to see more of Cosmo's happy-go-lucky, optimistic, and comedically unorthodox side. He gives off a very unique charm in the sense of changing the responsibility dynamic. When it's Timmy, Cosmo, and Wanda, you have Wanda being the one that's the most responsible. But since Wanda left in Wanda's Day Off, it switches to Timmy, despite being the child, and the one who's supposed to be making the wishes. He shows how wrong Timmy can be by simply granting the wishes and seeing the chaos unfold. He isn't completely irresponsible, and he does redeem himself in certain episodes. Specifically in CosmoCon, actually. He shows that although he is competent enough to run a fairy-attended fairy convention, with Wanda's help, he shows that his short-sightedness when inviting a guest singer that's human. We also have another episode, Nectar of the Odds, where Cosmo is not really the forefront in terms of dialogue, but he is used quite a bit in the story. There isn't too much to talk about in season 2, so I'll bundle this up with season 3 as well. So in this next season, we have This Is Your Wish, an episode that shows us a lot about Cosmo. It solidifies the entire mama's boy trait that was hinted in the episode of Partnership from season 1. It shows that he does bring something to the table. He's very funny, and while he may not be the responsible fairy, he is definitely the fun one, and Timmy appreciates both of them. They are the yin and yang in this particular episode. There's also the episode Where's Wanda, where he was the one who decided to not take the blame and made Wanda take the blame for him. Besides those 2 episodes, there isn't too much in season 3 that focuses on Cosmo really, and of the episodes that had Cosmo in it heavily, I've already said those things that he did, and what those traits represent about him. Before I give the overall description, let's knock out a few key episodes in seasons 4 and 5. From what I've seen in seasons 4 and 5, there isn't a giant change in character. We do have episodes like Fairy Friends and Neighbors, Just the Two of Us, and The Big Superhero Wish, and a few others where Cosmo is in it but nothing truly substantial happens in terms of his character. We have a bad case of diarrhea, where Cosmo is actually the voice of reason. There isn't too much as to why, because although Wanda is fueled on revenge, there is other episodes that show that Cosmo would have been right beside Wanda. But regardless, he was the voice of reason for a change, and that is another defining episode for him. We also have another episode, Pixies Inc., where his stupidity is used, but we don't see too much of his perspective. It's like the episode Nectar of the Odds, where he's in the episode and he's used heavily, but we don't get to see too much of his perspective. He's kind of just thrown aside in these episodes. Going on to the last season of this particular character clash, there is the episode The Grand Plan, where Cosmo interacts with his anti-fairy counterpart. He seems to have a very calm and friendly relationship that even the opposite of Cosmo, someone evil, cunning, and smart, even that isn't enough for Cosmo to have animosity. But we do have seeds planted for Cosmo just being written to be the idiot in this particular episode.
So long, suckers! Oh! You know, for an evil genius, you'd have thought he'd have taken the time to measure that stick. Why didn't you? Stupid! Remember? Stupid!
Lastly, you have episodes like True for Cosmoquences, where Cosmo had his school reunion. In that one, he did show that he wanted to be cool, at the expense of his godchild and his wife. He did learn his lesson in the end when he realized he couldn't have his pop sensation cake and eat it too. And I don't know if that made sense. but I'm going with it anyway. He couldn't live life the way he wanted to and kept the relationship is my point. There is a lot of tension between Wandissimo and Cosmo, not enough for me to think of it any bigger than it is, but it's still there, and worth noting. There was a few episodes I'm leaving out, but they essentially tell us the same things that other episodes tell. So Cosmo is a very happy-go-lucky, optimistic, carefree individual. He loves Wanda, and his mother, and his anti-counterpart, and Timmy, but he doesn't like Wandissimo because he's jealous. He's on the jealous side. He's very possessive. Like Wanda. He's also very funny and slower than everyone around him, but he's used for roles of power or authority, meaning that he isn't worthless or careless. Sometimes he does blend in as not just Cosmo, but Cosmo and Wanda, meaning that they both act as if they're one character split into two, but when he's on his own, you don't really know what to expect. He could be the moron, he could be the voice of reason, but he's always Cosmo. So putting these two together, here are the similarities I've seen. Both Patrick and Cosmo are not shown to be stupid, just slower than everyone else. Both characters are very funny, but know when to reel it back. Both characters are very carefree and love the people around them, whether as a wife or best friend. Both characters have moments where they appear smarter than the people around them. Not a lot of these scenes, but they're there. Both characters can be very aggressive when it comes to emotions. And lastly, both characters are not stupid. They just like to have fun without thinking about the consequences. And we will talk about true stupidity when we do the other character clash. If you want to write a character like Classic Patrick or Classic Cosmo, just make the character slightly slower than the people around him, or make the people around him a lot quicker to the punch. This character shouldn't ever be bored, sad, or mad a lot of the time. They should be carefree, optimistic, happy-go-lucky, caring. However, they should also be very careless with their actions, and have some moments that show they aren't the smartest person. This character should have tons of moments where it shows that they love the people around them. Overall, this character shouldn't be a hindrance. They shouldn't be the one messing up all the time. This video is getting super long script-wise, so I decided to split this into two parts. So when I do revisit this topic, it will be Modern Patrick and Modern Cosmo. If you want my honest opinion, I think at least talking about Classic Cosmo and Classic Patrick, I generally lean towards Patrick, but not by much. Both characters are well written and a huge part of my childhood growing up. So which character is more compelling to you? Let me know in the comments below, or on Twitter at the alphajayshow. Our Discord has also had a huge boost of people, so make sure to check that out and contribute to the conversation there. I'm very active on both of these platforms. The links for those are always in the description of all of my videos going forward, as well as the link to my request page. Technically, this here was a request, so again, I do take them, but it does take time. If you really like this video, I highly suggest going to my character class playlist. It's filled with a lot of the character analysis that you see in this video. But if you want to stick in the realm of Fairly Odd Parents, I highly suggest this video here, Remy vs. Chloe. Make sure to subscribe and feel free to consider my Patreon. As always, I hope your time is well spent, and Alpha out.